Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another episode of my weekly series where we take a look at some of the newest metal releases that are coming out this weekend. Every week I go through a stack of brand new albums, EPs, and this week I have one standalone single. And I'm going to give you my thoughts on what they sound like, what kind of bands they might remind you of, and whether they're worth checking out. This week we have a pretty diverse lineup, everything from modern metalcore and symphonic metal to old school thrash, epic heavy metal, black metal, and a super group playing 80s style heavy metal that is related to the band Pantera. I'll talk about that later. And I'm going to do like I usually do. I rank them from my lowest ranked to my highest, but all these are good. Like all these are over a 7. But anyway, let's get started. First up on the list, we have the 7th studio album from American progressive metalcore band Erra, titled Silence Outlives the Earth. This is one of those bands I've heard about for years. I never really sat down and listened to one of their albums all the way through. I might have checked out their previous release at some point, but honestly it didn't leave a big impression on me. Musically, the album falls right into the modern metalcore category. The opening track, Stelliform, sets tone with heavy down-tuned guitar riffs, a mix of harsh screams and melodic clean vocals. A lot of tight rhythmic playing. It's very polished and very modern sounding. The track Further Eden continues a similar direction with low-end guitar tones and a more melodic vocal approach. Then you have Gore Being, which leans a little more into progressive territory with some technical guitar. And it sounds like he's playing on an 8-string guitar. I might be wrong, but later on the album, the song Black Cloud actually sounded more like a modern radio rock or pop metal track. A bit more accessible, less aggressive than some of the earlier material. They do get heavy again on the track Cicada Siren, and that brings some pounding riffs and aggressive vocals. And the album closes with a 3-part song sequence, which was actually pretty interesting structurally. Overall, not a bad album. I'm just not really into this type of modern metalcore that much. For me, I still give this one a 7 out of 10. Next we have Nocturnal Womb, a 3-track EP from the indigenous black metal project, Vreid. The release is described as containing material that was considered too dark for the narrative of the previous album, and you can definitely hear the heavier and darker direction right away. The title track, Nocturnal Womb, is an 8-minute epic. It might be one of the heaviest songs I've heard from this project. It's packed with blast beats, harsh screams, and thick layers of guitar that create a huge atmospheric soundscape. Even though it's very aggressive, it still maintains that cinematic feel that Vreid is known for. The second track, Celestial Bloodlust, leans more towards traditional black metal, has relentless blast beats and dense layered guitar riffs that create a wall of sound. The final track, Barefoot Ghost Dance on Blood-Soaked Soil, changes things up completely. This one is an acoustic instrumental, similar to some of the atmospheric pieces from previous releases. It provides a calmer, reflective moment after the intensity of the first 2 songs. Overall, the EP highlights the darker and more extreme side of the project. It's short, but still manages to deliver a strong atmosphere. My final score for this one will be a 7.5 out of 10. Coming in next is Symphonic Metal EP, Song of Darkness from Leaves Eyes. This is a 4-track EP released through Reigning Phoenix Music. It continues the band's classic blend of symphonic, gothic, and folk metal. The opening title, Song of Darkness, is exactly what you would expect from this band. It features melodic symphonic arrangements, operatic-style female vocals, and big dramatic guitar riffs. The next song, Hall of the Brave, moves more into folk metal territory. It includes wind instruments and more orchestral layers, which help create a bigger and more theatrical sound. Then there's Until the Last Day, which might be the strongest track in the EP. Features pounding drums, powerful guitar riffs, and a mix of clean female vocals and male death growls. That contrast works really well and gives the song a lot of energy. The EP closes with Roots Eternal, a slower ballad that focuses heavily on orchestration and melodic vocals. Overall, short release. It offers a little bit of everything, and the fans of the band would expect. It's solid, even if it doesn't break new ground. But for me, I give it 7.6 out of 10. Next we have Land of the Rising Sun, Part 2 from Finnish power metal band Metal de Facto. The album continues their concept exploring Japanese culture and mythology, features a lot of cinematic production along with traditional Japanese instruments. The opening track, Senga Kuji Temple, almost sounds like the opening to a movie. It has a big orchestral atmosphere before the heavy guitars finally kick in. Then you have songs like Across the Milky Way, which mix those cinematic synth sounds with modern metal riffs and melodic vocals. One of my favorite tracks here is Gojira. Has a really interesting mix of heavy metal and bass-driven grooves that almost reminded me of post-punk in certain sections. Another interesting moment is the track My Plastic Escape, which blends power metal with elements that almost sound like Japanese pop. And it's unusual, but it works surprisingly well. The album continues with tracks like Fury and Beauty, which bring back more traditional power metal elements along with theatrical arrangements. Overall, it's a creative concept. I probably need to listen to it a few more times to fully appreciate it, but I like the ambition behind it. My score for this one is 7.7 out of 10. Next up we have Wildfire, a full-length album from French heavy metal band Existence. This is a real throwback to the classic 1980s heavy metal. The band mixes old school heavy metal with touches of glam metal, and the result sounds like something that could have come out during the golden age of metal. The guitars alternate between distorted riffs and cleaner melodic passages. The vocals are big and powerful in their classic arena metal style. Some of the riffs reminded me of 80s Iron Maiden, especially when they use galloping rhythms. The song See the Light leans more towards power metal with a faster pace and uplifting energy. Meanwhile, the track Love Affair features those Maiden-esque style rhythms, but with a chorus that almost feels something like Bon Jovi. And throughout the album, there are lots of fist-pumping choruses and memorable guitar leads. It's not reinventing the genre, but if you enjoy classic, melodic heavy metal, it's definitely worth checking out. I'm giving this one 8 out of 10. Next we have the latest album from Finnish band Lost Society, titled Hell is a State of Mind. The band originally started out playing thrash metal, but over the years their sound has evolved quite a bit. On this album, they mix modern metal, symphonic elements, electronics, and even some pop influences. The opening track, Afterlife, immediately shows that change with some rapping sessions combined with orchestral elements. Then there's Blood Diamond, which features electronic layers and vocal melodies. Reminded me a lot of Avenged Sevenfold, especially their Nightmare era. Another interesting track is Synthetic, includes industrial sounds and turntable scratches. The song Is This What You Wanted slows things down with an acoustic power ballad that actually works pretty well. And then you have J'appelle du Vide, which leans into nu metal territory. It's a little cheesy, but at the same time kind of fun. The album's all over the place stylistically, but it's also pretty entertaining. My final score for this one will be 8.3 out of 10. Next up is Dissecting the Leech from Canadian thrash metal band Rectify. This band features guitarist Matt Hanchuk and former Testament bassist Gret Christine. And the music combines sharp thrash riffs with some power metal influences. The opening track, Under the Sun, starts things off with fast and aggressive thrash riffs. The next track, Do It Again, continues that momentum with classic-style guitar work and powerful drumming. Millennial Dystopia slows things down slightly with a more mid-paced chugging rhythm. Then the track, Revolt, leans into a heavier groove with thick guitar riffs. The title track, Dissecting the Leech, adds a little more melody and gives the bass guitar a bigger role in the mix. The one thing that took me a little time to get used to was the vocal style. It combines harsh vocals with clean singing and some falsetto sections that reminded me a bit of King Diamond. Once you get used to that, the music itself is really strong, and this one gets 8.4 out of 10. Coming in next is Piercing the Heart of the World, the third album from Athens-based band Triumpher. This band specializes in epic heavy metal, and its sound is often compared to bands like Manowar or Eternal Champion. Production here is very big and dramatic. There are layers of guitars, pounding double bass drumming, and even atmospheric elements like bells helped create the feeling of warriors marching into battle. The track Destroyer is one of the standout songs with fast-paced riffs, powerful drumming. Another highlight is Ithaca, Return of the Eternal King, more of an epic power ballad featuring clean guitar tones and some neoclassical influences. They're not necessarily doing anything new stylistically, but they execute the sound extremely well. For fans of epic traditional heavy metal, definitely worth hearing. My score for the album is 8.5 out of 10. Next we have The Crawl, the fifth studio album from Detroit death doom band Temple of Void. I remember listening to the previous album from 2022 and really liking it. This one continues in a similar direction while adding some new influences. Opening track Poison Icon moves at a fast pace, leans closer to traditional death metal. Godless Cynic introduces some unexpected post-punk vibes with strong bass presence and chugging guitars. The title track The Crawl brings back more old-school death metal elements along with deep guttural vocals. Another interesting track is A Dead Issue, which slowly builds with dark atmospheric sounds before moving into heavier sections. Later songs like Thy Mountain Eternal and Soul Burn lean more towards their classic death doom style with slow tempos and thick atmospheric guitars. The album closes with Twin Stranger, a slow and crushing death doom track. Overall, this is a really strong album and it balances heaviness with experimentation. My final score is 8.7 out of 10. Coming in number 3 is the self-titled debut from heavy metal supergroup Axe Dragger. The lineup includes members of bands like Fu Manchu, Dark Funeral, Pentagram, and former Pantera singer Terry Glaze. Musically, classic early 80s heavy style metal with a darker edge. The opening title track features big vocals, strong guitar riffs, a memorable chorus. Give You the Rope leans more towards early glam metal, something along the lines of Dokken. Fight Another Day brings riffs that remind me of classic Judas Priest or Iron Maiden. Iron Rider is a little more upbeat with a groove that leans slightly into glam territory. One of the standout tracks is Eat Me From the Inside, which slows things down with heavy plodding rhythms and a darker atmosphere. Overall, this was a pleasant surprise and a very strong debut. My score is 8.8 out of 10. Next is a standalone single from Mexican rock trio The Warning titled Kerosene. The track continues their signature hard rock sound but adds a little more modern polish. One of the first things I noticed was the guitar tone, which reminded me a lot of the band Muse. It has a slightly futuristic distortion while still maintaining a strong rock foundation. At the same time, it still sounds very much like classic Warning music. The song itself feels a little angrier than some of the previous material, which makes it feel like a natural progression from the last album. Another highlight is Ali's bass playing. The bass guitar tone is very distorted. It really stands out in the mix, adding a lot of weight to the overall sound. As of right now, this is just a standalone single. They haven't officially announced a new album yet, or at least I don't know. If you know, let us know in the comments. But based on the track, I wouldn't be surprised if something's coming later this year. This is one of my favorites of the week, and I'm giving Kerosene 9 out of 10. And finally, my top release from the week is The Skies Turn Black from Norwegian band Vreid. The album marks a return to their Sagna metal roots, combining black metal with elements of classic heavy metal and some rock influences. What really surprised me about this album was how melodic and accessible it is. The production is very clean. You can clearly hear every instrument in the mix. The vocals still have that black metal style, but they're actually understandable. The song From These Woods shows this blend perfectly with guitar lines and atmospheric elements. The title track, The Skies Turn Black, even features traditional heavy metal style riffs that almost make it sound like classic metal rather than black metal. A Second Death leans closer to thrash metal at times while still maintaining that black metal edge. There's also an instrumental called Kraken, which was written for a film soundtrack, has a huge cinematic sound, almost feels like something from a movie score. Then there's a track, Loving the Dead, which includes female vocals and might be one of the poppiest black metal songs that I've ever heard. This is probably one of my favorite songs of the month, probably. But anyway, overall, one of the most interesting albums I heard this week. I'll be listening to it again. My final score is 9.2 out of 10. And that wraps up this week's list of new metal releases. Let me know in the comments which of these albums you're planning to check out, which ones were your favorites. And if you missed last week's episode, you can check it out right here. It should be appearing on the screen. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future reviews. And thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.